Are you Tony's Stank?
Well, hello, folks, and welcome back. We're back with another episode of Delivery for Tony Stank. Today we're talking about episode 2 of What If, which asks the question, what if T'Challa was Star-Lord instead of Peter Quill? So, we'll get into the episode, but it was great. It was really good. We'll get into it in more detail though, but first of all, I just want to say thank you again so much for your support. It's been so much appreciated. All your likes, retweets, follows on Twitter, the downloads, the feedback I've had has been unbelievable. So thank you very much. I am making some slight changes to my sort of schedules and stuff. I've struggled with time to get this podcast recorded, edited, and out, which is why it's a little bit later than normal. So I'm going to be just streaming one day a week on Twitch. If you don't follow me on Twitch already, so obviously Massey1903. It just gives me time. So I'll be streaming on a Tuesday night. It means it gives me the Thursday to get this all sorted, because I want to be doing this long term, as well as Twitch, obviously. But it just gives me time to kind of get things sorted there. But again, thank you so much for your support. Yeah, let's get into the episode. Okay, so we start off with obviously the title scenes and our Watcher played by Jeffrey Wright. I'm really liking the title scenes. It's very interesting. It's like it feels like a standard kind of animated show titles, but I don't know, it just hits differently for me. It just hits really differently. So yeah, love it, absolutely love it. And then that obviously leads into us seeing the coordinates for Morag and the setup for Morag, the abandoned planet. Now this is obviously a complete parallel to the opening to Guardians of the Galaxy, when we saw Peter Quill as Star-Lord turn up and have on the awesome mix. Is that the first one? I think that's the first song. Anyway, yeah. But it's a lot more. It's a person that's a lot more controlled, a lot more kind of straight in his task and what he's doing. He goes straight to the to collect the orb. Now, obviously, we know this is T'Challa. We're also aware of this, as that is what the whole episode is about. But yeah, a couple of slight differences. So he obviously, as I say, there's no awesome mix. He kind of just does things exactly what he needs to do. He also, with a trap, it's quite an interesting thing that he does. He uses it in his hand. In Guardians of the Galaxy, he actually Peter Quill pops it on the ground, uses it that way. T'Challa, Star-Lord, uses it on his hand and pulls it out that way. Then we have Korath turned up. So I keep saying his name wrong. Djimon Hounsou, who also played Korath in the first one. Again, a complete parallel to the Guardians of the Galaxy opening, where when Korath turns up, Peter Quill, says, "You may know me as another name, Star-Lord." Who? Says Djimon Hounsou. This time, as soon as T'Challa reveals his face, Korath knows that it's Star-Lord and starts groveling to him as like a Star-Lord fanboy, which is brilliant. And they have this sort of fight, or sparring, as Korath put it, where throughout the whole fight, or throughout the whole spar, Korath is asking if this is okay, and clearly wanting to do things the right way for T'Challa, for Star-Lord. It's such a great. It tells us how influential T'Challa as Star-Lord is compared to Peter Quill. Obviously as we know him in the MCU, his influences as king and or prince at first, of course, and then as king, and he obviously has the love and adoration of his people, and it just tells us that is his character. because now even in space, in a completely separate setting from Wakanda, he is still as influential and still as obviously charismatic and a leader um than than what he would be on Earth and Wakanda as well, and obviously compared to Star Lord, who's basically a Joker. He's basically sorry, when I say Star Lord, I mean Peter Quill, who's basically a Joker, and doesn't take himself or things too seriously. So yeah, so this fight with Korath, and T'Challa does win. He does beat him, and then uses the uh, metallic magnetic key kind of thing as like a weapon as well. He does that during sort of at the start of the fight and stuff as well. And then Korath is obviously wanting to be part of T'Challa's gang, wants to run with him. And T'Challa, after fighting him, ends up literally carrying him, taking him over his shoulder, and outside waiting for him is Korath's backup, who and then they're basically telling him to stop and what, take him in like custody or whatever, and yeah, then he tells us that a Ravager never flies solo. Obviously, it doesn't whatever he's wanting to happen doesn't happen immediately. He has to say it again, and there's a fantastic line where one of the faceless goons, I can't remember what they're called, it asks, is that meant to be a catchphrase or something? And then we see Yondu turn up with his trusty arrow, and because these are faceless goons and because these aren't humans, we can see them get killed by Yondu's arrow. And yeah, there's a really great kind of, from the start, there's a great chemistry between Yondu, obviously again played by Michael Rooker, and T'Challa, which is again, as we'll kind of keep going back to the parallel of the actual Guardians of the Galaxy film, but it's the parallel. It always seemed to be that that with Yondu and Peter Quill, there was like a tough relationship, a tough love relationship, and actually quite a broken relationship. That none of them really, obviously, things weren't really in a good place until they were fighting ego together in a case of life or death. But from the off with T'Challa and Yondu, it's very much that they're partners, or even closer than partners in like a friendly sense, or like in a work sense, if you know what I mean. They're like Batman and Robin, or probably more equal, to be perfectly honest. Or even family, there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of like respect and obvious chemistry between them. They also kind of talk about, so here we see a bit more about again T'Challa's influence on the Ravagers. Yondu is obviously the leader of the Ravagers, and they talk about less about stealing and making money, and more about helping galaxies and species, and using the power stone to or sort of, I don't know if they know what it is, but the orb to restart dying stars and things like that. So it's definitely a lot more, as they kind of allude to later on, a lot more Robin Hoody than the typical kind of Ravagers as we know them, which was the led by the Peter Quill Star-Lord, or that kind of thing. But it was more about being outlaws and maybe not doing things to the more morally correct sort of thing. This is, as I say, T'Challa's influence and T'Challa's leadership has always been about, doing the best for Wakanda, or the best for what he thinks is morally right, and that obviously shows that he has done that with these Ravagers and stuff as well. One little Easter egg that we kind of get as well. Now, I did actually see this as part of my It's part of what I do for before I record. Is I watch the episode a couple of times, and I also watch New Rock Stars. If you've not watched them, they're fantastic on YouTube. Eric Voss goes into a lot of detail about Easter eggs and breakdowns and things like that. And one of the things that he picked up, which I think is again shows a lot about T'Challa, is the ship. So the ship in Guardians of the Galaxy was called Milano, and I believe that was after the actress that was in, oh, what was it called? There was a TV show about witches, but Alyssa Milano, wasn't it? I think she was like quite a big star, or in America, I know at that time. But this time the ship's actually called the Mandela. Nelson Mandela obviously is or was a political figure around about a time when T'Challa was picked up by Yondu back in 1988, they say. So again, it shows where T'Challa's kind of influence lies and what he's been influenced by and stuff as well. So then we get a scene where it's the flashback scene that we see T'Challa as a kid on Wakanda with his dad, T'Chaka, who is voiced by the actor who voiced him in the Black Panther and Civil War films. And then T'Challa is picked up as the Watcher says, wrong place, wrong time. He's picked up by, again, Yondu ship, the Ravagers. But the what if in this time, the reason that it was T'Challa instead of Peter Quill this time was because Yondu passed the job on to Taserface and Kraglin. Again, there's a fantastic part where Yondu says, does this look like Peter Quill to you? And Kraglin tells him that he's got, well, it's all humans look the same to me. 2 ear holes, 2 eye holes, and a feed hole or an eat hole. Sorry, he says. So that's how it becomes T'Challa instead of Peter Quill, which is a great. But we think of, obviously, Kraglin looks like a human, but he is obviously part of an alien race. I'm not quite sure what race, but they obviously aren't able to distinguish between humans like we are. And then T'Challa is hardly even phased by what's happening, and he says that he wants to see the world. And Yondu says, how about instead of one world, we can explore the whole universe, basically. So then we're transported over to Contraxia, which in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, this is the place, it's kind of snow. There's a lot of snow and stuff like that. The Ravagers end up seeing Sylvester Stallone's Ravager team for the first time in our movies. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, they're at the sort of lower levels with the sex robots stuff. It's kind of icky. It's kind of icky. Very, very icky. I don't like that sort of thing. Very icky. But this time they are up in with the classy people. It seems like up in the higher levels. Again, obviously alluding to T'Challa's influence, T'Challa's almost T'Challa's kind of, what's the word? Natural hierarchy, in that he's meant to be a leader or in these higher sort of classes kind of thing, basically. And they all sit around the table with drinks and chat about war stories. Korath is now here, and he asks them what their favorite thing was, what their favorite heist, what their favorite planet they saved was. Asks them about all the different ones, and even says about how basically asks how we managed to stop the mad Titan Thanos from what he was wanting to do, from obviously the snap. He said it's from decimating half the universe. And this is where we get the incredible reveal that Thanos is part of the boys. He puts his arm around Korath and says, "I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong." Now, So in the credits, you do see Josh Brolin's name. The start credits, sorry. I thought that it would be a case of, potentially the Ravagers against Thanos or something along those lines. I wasn't 100% sure what it would kind of be. But to see the reveal that Thanos is literally one of the boys just absolutely hammers home how influential T'Challa is when he's able to just speak to Thanos or do something to influence Thanos from the Thanos that we know in the MCU, that our movies, was so single-mindedly focused on getting all the Infinity Stones, creating the snap, and decimating half of the universe, blipping out half of the universe. For T'Challa to be able to have talked him to a place where he understands that that is not the only way. And again, this is a guy over 10 years had been focused on this one thing. For T'Challa to have been able to make him see that there is more than just that way. Again, it speaks absolute testament, absolute volumes for T'Challa's influential charisma and an incredible way with words. Obviously, how I can't even fathom to think about how he was able to convince Thanos that the one thing that he thought he was inevitable. He even says that I am inevitable. That it was inevitable that was to happen. That he was to decimate half the universe with one snap and 6 Infinity Stones. For T'Challa to be able to change, I can't understand. It's impossible to understand how he would have done that, and I don't mean that in a completely unbelievable way. It's completely believable that he would have done this, but I would love to know, absolutely love to know, what he did to make Thanos see that there's a different way, that there's a that it doesn't have to be this genocidal kind of way of doing it. So staying on Contraxia, we then meet the bartender, who is Drax, Drax the Destroyer, and tells T'Challa his money is not welcome here. No, seriously, we only take cash. In typical Drax, dry, kind of fashion, it's brilliant. Now, obviously, Drax isn't voiced by Dave Bautista. The writers and the creators of the show did say they wanted to get Bautista to do it, but for whatever reason, he was not able. I'm not quite sure who the actor is that voiced him, but it sounds relatively like Bautista. It's enough to, that it's Drax. You know that it's him. Obviously, he looks like him as well, and he recognizes Star-Lord, recognizes T'Challa, asks if he can get a picture for his wife and daughter. So again, a kind of another great thing to come from this is that Drax doesn't lose his family. He's still obviously a family man, and it's a nice little touch for Drax and for what things have changed just because we have T'Challa instead of Peter Quill as Star-Lord. So yeah, it's lovely to see that. It's heartwarming. Makes you shed a tear. Lovely. Then we have Nebula show up. Nebula turns up and speaks to T'Challa. Obviously, they have some sort of history. She knows him. Calls him Chacha. Calls him Chacha, and she has like little to no cybernetics. There is still a bit around her eye, which I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how she got that. If that was part of Thanos, but basically, Thanos hasn't tortured her and stuff, as he's a good guy. Now, or he's seen the error of his ways, kind of thing. So he's not focused on the one path of the snap, which means that he doesn't have the need or doesn't feel the need to obviously torture Nebula. And then she looks, apart from being like blue, but she looks like relatively normal, relatively well adjusted and stuff. So it's yeah, it's again another great little thing to see, another nice little story. She then tells T'Challa about a job that she has for him, and it's collecting the embers of Genesis, which can essentially restart dying planets with literally, or restart dying planets and ecosystems with literally just a couple of seeds from it. And obviously with T'Challa, he, as we said, he's kind of driven to more the war towards helping people. And I mean, with this sort of tool, he could help millions, billions, trillions, cajillions. I don't know what's more than cajillions. I don't even know if cajillions are a real thing. It it is. It is. I'm saying it is. Okay. Anyway. And so Nebula then obviously tells them that it is with the Collector. Anlar Tavan. We learn that the Collector is basically the big bad. He's when Thanos went straight, as he says, there was a power vacuum that needed filled, and Tanlir Tavan is the one who stepped in and filled that. So he is now essentially, as if, when we say how T'Challa is so influential on the good side, he's now obviously the influential part on the bad side. He stepped in and took the power that Thanos vacated for himself. So they have a meeting about the job, and Yondu, the guys are a bit like, are not wanting to do it because of obviously who it is of the Collector and how he'll kill them. Essentially, it's essentially a suicide mission. Yondu then storms off, and T'Challa has a wee chat with him. They talk about how they steal from the rich and give to the poor, like your hero Robin Leach. Now again on New Rockstars, they talked about how Robin Leach was actually, well, so obviously Yondu meant Robin Hood. Apparently Robin Leach was a person that was apparently really wealthy, or was maybe not, didn't have the interest of anyone else in heart apart from himself, sort of thing. So it's quite funny that he got the name incorrect with someone like that, when obviously meaning Robin Hood. And T'Challa tells him that they've been doing smaller jobs, been helping out people as they can, but with this one big job, they can make a real massive difference to the universe. And then obviously Yondu tells us about how he's never been any good at saying no to T'Challa. So again, showing the influential part of T'Challa as Star-Lord. Okay, so then obviously T'Challa has influenced Yondu to go ahead with the mission with him, and they talk about the job. They talk about what the plan is. So it is still on Nowhere, the severed head of the celestial being, where Tavan his collection is kept. They talk about how the Black Order are the ones that are running security for Tavan, who are obviously Thanos's old crew. Yeah, they were the followers, weren't they? The followers of Thanos, I think they were called. We'll call them his crew. They were his crew. They were his brothers, his sisters, his gang, Thanos gang, the Than gang. They were the Than gang. There we go. We've got it. They were the Than gang before, but then obviously when he went straight, they went to work for the Collector, who, as we say, is the power in the universe. They talk through the plan, which is that T'Challa's gang, Korath and Thanos, will create a distraction to get the Black Order away from security, so they can sneak T'Challa in on the little trolley thing that they have that doesn't have wheels because it's obviously in space, the floating trolley, and that obviously works. So they get inside, and yeah, once the distraction has been seen by Proxima Midnight, who is the tall kind of female one, I believe, she realizes it's a distraction, and obviously T'Challa is already inside. And he walks past Cosmo, the space dog, who we see in Guardians of the Galaxy as well. Walks past a dark elf, and then our boy, which we spoke about in the last episode, Howard the Duck, voiced by Seth Green, who is back for that. Howard the Duck, if you're not sure who he is, there was a film in the 90s, I think it was Steven Spielberg, and it's like known as one of the worst films. I've not seen it, but it's meant to be absolutely terrible. I'm not going to bother seeing it. But we saw Howard the Duck in Guardians of the Galaxy in the post credits. Can't remember if it was one or two. I'm sure it was one. Yeah, it would be one, wouldn't it? We've seen Howard the Duck anyway in a quick scene. But we get to the child has an interaction with him. Howard is trying to tell him where the fauna is, where the fauna part of the museum or the collection is, so he can get obviously collect the embers. And ends up breaking them out just so he can show him, because it's quite a complicated route there. Well, he makes it sound complicated anyway, talking about having a Ralph and a Louis, which I'm believing is right and left. I'm just guessing that. But yeah, so he manages to release him. Then obviously it's this is when Proxima Midnight realizes that there's the distraction that caused the riot is a distraction, and locks down the building. T'Challa manages to get through it's like Indiana Jones style, gets through like the closing door, which takes him into the garage, or if you're American, takes him into the garage. Yeah, I can't do an American accent. I apologize. This then there's a great shot of the garage, the garage. Anyway, there's a great shot in there of the different spaceships that the collector has in his collection. So we do see a Nova Corps spaceship. We do see the Grandmaster ships there. We see Hank Pym's Quantum Realm ship as well. The Sicarian ship as well at the top right. So that's the ship that the Sicarian ship is the ship that Nebula gets and flies straight into Thanos in Infinity War. So yeah, it's a lot of kind of Easter eggy sort of stuff there. It's a really, really cool shot. I like it. And as T'Challa is going through the garage, his necklace, the necklace that we know, or in our films, it basically holds a suit. That starts to light up, starts to glow blue, and the Wakandan like drum sound, kind of shows, and the ship actually, there's a ship that reacts to his necklace with a sign for Wakandan spacecraft. So what this means is that obviously Wakandans were able to navigate space to some extent. Anyway, they literally had a spaceship that we find out was what T'Chaka wanted to use to try and find T'Challa. Was trying to find him, searching space for him. And we get that with a hologram of T'Chaka where he talks about his son T'Challa, who was abducted and taken into space. So again, Wakandans are known for their technological advances, which are miles in front of humans. And again, obviously they've taken that step further and literally into space travel. There's then a double cross. Nebula shows up with the Collector and Yondu, and they talk about how basically the Collector, what he wanted was T'Challa. He wanted or Nebula had a debt with the Collector, and what would pay off his debt was getting T'Challa as part of the collection. They're then imprisoned. The Ravagers and T'Challa and Yondu are imprisoned in sort of an electrified fancy thingy majiggy, and Yondu confirms that he knew that Wakanda wasn't destroyed, which is what which is what T'Challa alluded to in the Contraxian bar when he's speaking to Nebula for the first time. That there wasn't much to go back to. He was told that his world was destroyed. Obviously, Yondu then admits that he was trying to protect him. He didn't want him to. He needs the Ravagers as a family, basically. That's kind of what he was getting at. So then T'Challa is moved into the collector's collection, and they have like a back and forth where he talks about how history has never looked kindly on those who lock men in cages. Now this resonates with the collector's assistant. I can't remember, Christina, I think her name is. You see her face kind of like thinking about what's happening. But this is quite important what he says and how she reacts going forward. But basically, Ebony Maw and her, I'm sure it's Christina, they are left to sort things out with the collection of T'Challa. Now Nebula is then taken to the Ravagers to see them by she basically turns around and kills one of the Black Order. So it's turned out it's actually like a triple cross. Essentially, this was all part of the plan, and T'Challa getting captured is part of the plan. But he wanted to keep them all in the dark because he knew that Yondu wouldn't allow him to go into a trap. Basically, that's kind of what they get to. But then it's a case of they literally walk through and collect the embers of Genesis. So they managed to complete the job. Then T'Challa manages to break out of his glass cage using again his necklace to break the glass, but Ebony Maw does manage to use his like magic-y power. So Ebony Maw is like crazy powerful. If you think back to the fight on Earth that Ebony Maw and the big guy, I can't remember his name, have with Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Wong. And Bruce Banner's there, but he doesn't do anything. He's able to manipulate and control objects and things to such a high level. He's I think he must be one of the more powerful people, or one of the most powerful beings that we know of. Then Ebony Maw uses the broken glass to subdue T'Challa, tying up his arms and his legs in midair. But then Collector's assistant Christina, I'm sure her name's Christina, I'm going to keep calling her Christina, or Aguilera, either or. She talks about how what he said about locking men up in cages resonated with her essentially, and she shoots Ebony Maw and kills him. Again, because he's not a human, we can see him get killed. But again, the animation and the lighting, we spoke about this last time. The neon that you see coming off the collector's cases, the next scene where the Ravager try to escape, the natural lighting that they use adds so much more depth to the animation, so much more lifelike to these literally animated aliens. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and it's again a testament to the creators of the show. They've thought of everything. There's little nods here, there, and everywhere with Easter eggs and things, but also with making sure that this looks as stylish and as good as they can make it look, and I think it looks phenomenal. I know my wife wasn't too keen on the animation style, but I love it. I think it totally resonates with me. It's kind of into Spider-Verse-y kind of thing, in the way that it's animated, and that I totally dig that. Like, that is just fantastic, fantastically done. So again, like, all the plaudits to the creators, because it's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Now we're then into a massive fight scene. We have T'Challa trying to escape. He's run down this vast kind of it's not a corridor, it's obviously like a massive place that has all the collectors things in cases, and there's literally millions, potentially billions of things that he's collected over the time. Again, just showing the power that he has over the universe. Um, Again, little hints like that tell us a story without literally giving us in black and white, without literally saying the collector is powerful. It shows us, it visually shows us how powerful he is. Like, you don't have uh some amount of power without, you don't have all these things and all this collection without having an incredibly powerful uh demeanor or thing behind you, basically. But yeah, he is absolutely fantastic. And I didn't really touch on the collector beforehand, but he is ripped. He's like a massive hulking beast of a guy. And Benicio del Toro, who's back to voice him, just adds so much a bit of humor, a bit of gravitas to him as well. But he's very imposing. He's a fantastic kind of, massive shoulders, big ripped 6-pack and stuff like that. Showing how physically powerful he is, but also again how mentally powerful he is to be able to control the all these things that he has in his collection. So yeah, T'Challa tries to get away, but there's a massive fist that knocks him off his path, knocks him back quite a bit, and he talks about the collector tells him about the big stone fist that he has. Now this is sad. This is really sad because he talks about how he hacks it off the carcass of a terribly chatty Cronin. So what that hint is at is that he's dismembered Korg. Dismembered Korg. My name is Gog, and I do not have a hand now. Sorry, that is a terrible accent. If you can do a better accent, if you can do a better Korg accent, I will be send it to me on Twitter. Send it to Twitter at DeliveryMCU, because that was terrible. My name is Korg. Oh God, no! I'm gonna stop. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop now. So yeah, he punches T'Challa, sends him flying, and they set up for a fight. Now, Collector uses his little bracelet to take down his like weapons, like armory chest thing, and this has a lot of different Easter eggs in it because basically, well, first of all, he uses a dagger from the forged in dark matter taken from the ruler of the Dark Elves. So that's obviously Malekith. Malekith's dagger. Malekith is the leader of the Dark Elves from Thor 2: The Dark World, which is widely renowned as one of the best films in the MCU. Now, also in the weapons chest armory thing, we have Captain America's shield. We have Mjolnir as well, so Thor's hammer. But the Collector uses the dagger from the Dark Elves. Luckily, T'Challa manages to use Korg's fist to stop the dagger getting through to him. But the Collector then asks if he wants it more elegant and reveals Hela's helmet. Hela's horned, spiky old helmet. Yeah, it's... Again, New Rockstar's touching this. I don't understand how he got it because she's literally the goddess of death. But it's cool nonetheless. And then he obviously recreates her, running her hands through what they think it's hair. I don't have much hair anymore, but runs through it, and he talks about how that woman had taste, and then creates like a necro sword, and throws that at T'Challa, and actually ends up spiking him against one of the cases that he has collected. So T'Challa's obviously in a bit of a bad kind of bind. We then move across to the Ravagers, who are on the run from the Black Order and the faceless people from the start of the episode, and of course Proxima Midnight as well. Thanos saves Nebula and saves the Ravagers, and ends up getting the absolute snot kicked out of him by the group of them. There's not too much that he can kind of do when he's trying to take them all on himself. But again, it shows that his heart is still there for Nebula. So throughout the episode, Nebula has talked about how she's lucky that no, he's lucky. Sorry, that she still calls him the big guy. She's still obviously harboring some sort of resentment towards him. But he obviously saves her and the others from the gang and managing to get them out safe. We then go back to the Collector and T'Challa. Collector is a way to kill T'Challa. Way to use Next Sword again to do that, but T'Challa does his old "A Ravager never flies solo," and we see Yondu with the trusty arrow, and they manage to break the headpiece. So it's literally a case of Yondu and T'Challa against Tivan, but Tivan catches Yondu's arrow, breaks it. We go back to Thanos fighting the Black Order. He's still getting the snot kicked out of him, getting the hammer blows to the back, getting stabbed in the legs, and there's then a gunshot out of nowhere. Nebula's came back to save him. Again, a bit of a redemption story. And Nebula uses 3 or 4 of the seeds of the Embers of Genesis, and it grows these massive, like viney kind of plant things that kill off like all the Black Order and stuff. And Thanos and Nebula escape into the Mandela and escape to safety with Kraglin and Taserface and Korath. Then we have those guys are out, the Ravagers are out. We're then on to Yondu and T'Challa, who are struggling to fight with Tivan. He's it's obviously a lot closer than just being the average kind of 2-on-1. They do get some good shots in, but he manages to fight them off. And they talk about using sticky fingers. We'll not delve too much into sticky fingers. That can be taken a lot of different ways. But basically, Yondu then goes up and tries to fight Tivan 1-on-1. Gets the snot kicked out of him. Gets punched in the face numerous times. Being held up by Tivan, and that is let go when T'Challa stands up and sets off his wee rocket booster choosies things. We see Tivan go to click the bracelet that obviously used to control the weapons and things like that, and see that Yondu has actually stolen that off of his arm. So very much like what Tony Stark did in Endgame to steal the Infinity Stones off of Thanos's arm. Kind of along the same sort of lines. Spoilers if you haven't seen Endgame. If you haven't seen Endgame, firstly, what are you doing here? Secondly, go watch it now. And they managed to lock Tivan up in one of his cages and pass the bracelet on to Christina Aguilera, his little assistant. And she lets everyone out, lets all the Collector's collection out, and essentially lets them go to him and lets them, as he says, karma. Let's what we think is they're going to kill him essentially. Yondu and T'Challa manage to escape on the Wakandan spacecraft. They also have a wee stowaway who is Cosmo, the space dog. So it's a great story that we see Cosmo a little bit more, and he gets out of nowhere before we see all the green plants and life come out of the head. T'Challa and Yondu have a wee chat about Yondu's going to apologize to him, obviously, but T'Challa tells him there's obviously no need. He was the one who wanted to see the world, and you just show me the universe, which is a lovely touching moment. Again, very easy for T'Challa to still harbor resentment, to still be angry at what Yondu taking him away from his world. But again with the T'Challa, um, T'Challa's mindset and T'Challa's humility, able to tell him that there's no need to apologize and stuff. Again, showing off the how influential he is and how fair he is as well. Which is a really touching moment. Then we have them going back. They go back to Wakanda. They go back to T'Challa's homeland, and he's reunited with his family, reunited with T'Chaka, Shuri, and his mum. And he introduces the Ravagers as his new family that he met along the way as well. There's a couple little bits and pieces where we scan across, seeing Thanos talking to some people talking about. They ask him, seems a bit like genocide, but he says no, it was efficient, and it was random as well. Talking about the snap. Kraglin is talking to someone else, talking about the jump, the what are they called, the jump spaces. And how they fry your face, which jump point, sorry, and how they fry your face, which was one of the scenes we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And we have Korath speaking to another person, saying about how him and T'Challa are best friends. So he's got his little arc as well. It's fantastic. T'Chaka does ask then how T'Challa managed to end up in Yondu's spacecraft, and Yondu kind of is a way to tell him the truth. But T'Challa interjects and says he was lost, and Yondu found him. Lovely. Again, the humility of T'Challa there to not be, he was able to. He's still to the very end. Even once his adventure is over, or once the episode is over, he's still able to be, fair and a leader. That's something a leader does. Doesn't harbor any resentment or anger or fury or frustration. He's just able to be as level-headed as possible. Then we go to the Dairy Queen that we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and there's a cleaner mopping up, listening to some 80s music. I believe it's Flock of Seagulls. Dancing about. He turns around and says, sorry, we're closed. And we see that this is Peter Quill, because it is Ego that's standing there, voiced by Kurt Russell. Again, I saw Kurt Russell's name in the opening credits, and I wasn't sure how that would go. I wasn't sure if they'd meet Ego along the way. But yeah, he shows up in Dairy Queen and says, Peter, can't you spare a little time for your dear old dad? And his eyes lighting up. So Peter is obviously still part Celestial, isn't he? I'm sure it's a Celestial. And the Watcher talks about how this story, unfortunately, essentially meant the end of the world. So again, this whole what if with just T'Challa being picked up by Yondu essentially means that in this universe, in this parallel dimension, that potentially Peter and Ego work side by side, which again was Ego's plan, which is what Ego wanted to happen anyway. So yeah, it's a kind of it's an ending that makes me want to know more. It's almost like, hopefully we get an episode that is called What If Peter teams up with Ego. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. And then we get the final title card that talks about what says dedicated to our friend, our inspiration, our hero, Chadwick Boseman. So a bit bittersweet, the ending there. Now Chadwick Boseman apparently filmed 4 episodes worth of voice dialogue. So I don't know if that means that we're going to potentially see more of this. Are we going to see the Ego and Peter Quill kind of? Are we going to see them as bad guys? I don't know. I really don't know. It'd be very interesting. Or do they just leave it there as like a single episode? Now we obviously know that Captain Carter is going to be in season 2. As I said as well, there's a picture of her with Doctor Strange in one of the season 1 stills. So if she's going to be recurring, does that mean that we're going to see some more of Star-Lord T'Challa? I don't know. Well, we're gonna have to see kind of how it goes. But yes, that's how the episode kind of went there. Now, one of the things I was going to do that I totally forgot to mention last time, I want to rate things out of 10. So TV shows and the films. With the TV shows, I'm going to wait till the end of them though before I give them a rating. I don't want to rate individual episodes. It's probably the hardest thing to do. So we're going to rate them at the end. But I would say that this episode I enjoyed much more than Captain Carter. I loved Captain Carter. I thought it was really interesting. But I feel like this is more of a this is more of what I was expecting from What If. It was more along the lines of we saw the parallels, like, and there were a lot more obvious, or there was like hints to more of the parallels that changed, and the lots of Easter eggs and stuff in between as well. So, yeah, loved it, absolutely loved it. I was trying to keep my cards close to my chest when folk were asking how I felt about it, but yeah, it was incredible. It was so good. It was really good. I've watched the episode 3 times now, and it doesn't let up. It's great. Each time I find something new that I pick up on, and I could easily watch it over and over again. But I'm so hyped for episode 3. I can't wait to see what we get with that. So, because the next episode 3 of What If, is about what if Loki presented himself to the governments of Earth as King of Asgard using all his diplomacy. So is this going to be a variant Loki? Are we going to see Tom Holland back? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm pumped for it. Absolutely pumped for it. The kind of, as I say, the more sort of out there things are what I expected from What If. Things like the zombies that we're potentially going to be seeing as well. That's kind of what I was expecting, and hopefully this next episode will be just as good as this one. But yeah, I think they've done a fantastic job. As I say, the first episode was great. Second episode was even better. If they can keep it up, I'm all in. I'm all in anyway. I'm a Marvel nut, so I'm all in anyway. But yeah, that's how it went. Okay, so one part of the podcast that I wanted to do was get your thoughts on the episodes. So I will put a tweet out every time I've watched an episode, and I'll ask you if you could please let me know what your thoughts were. Again, at DeliveryMCU on Twitter. Just let me know your thoughts, and we will feature them on the podcast here. So the first one was from Jamie, at FSakeJamie on Twitter. He said, what if Marvel Episode 2 was a blast? What an incredible cast, and great seeing more iconic characters in a different light, and a very fitting send-off to Mr. Boseman. Fitting indeed. We then had at Mikey Cubed, who tweeted, loved it. Was a bit apprehensive of the concept of the episode at first, but thought they nailed the tone of it perfectly. Great comedy and very emotional when it needed to be. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on next episode. Well, Mikey, you've heard them now. Yeah, I completely agree. The concept is, as I say, pretty out there, especially compared to Captain Carter, but they smashed it. At Foxy Snob, loved it. Any Yondu content is cool with me. Yep, Mary Poppins. And at King Doug, a letdown compared to the first one. We did kind of discuss this on this thread as well, and asked what made them feel let down by it, and not a big Black Panther fan for a start. So that will be that will be quite a big reason to not have enjoyed an episode around who, Chadwick Boseman playing T'Challa, who was Black Panther. So I completely understand it. Completely understand. There's not everyone's gonna love every single episode that is released, and that's fair enough. At Corky DMNI said, I'm reading nothing into the episode, so I don't know what's going on. Interesting character arcs for Yondu, Thanos, Tanalier, and the Black Order, amongst others. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Absolutely. So again, the sort of feedback for the episode from fans, and of course from the critics and stuff as well, seems to be pretty positive. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's I think it's great to hear, and it's got us off to a good start on the season. Now, one last thing before we finish up, there was a final trailer for Eternals released. If you haven't watched it, I have tweeted about it at Delivery MCU, or you can go on YouTube and find it on there. Again, New Rockstars did do a breakdown of it. I think it looks incredible. I think Eternals looks phenomenal. There's a question asked by Jon Snow, who is playing Moon Knight, I believe. He asks why they didn't help when Thanos turns up, and they say that we were told not to interfere when it's like human conflicts and stuff. And Thanos is is part Eternal with a genome change or something like that. So I wonder if that might come into it as well. Don't know, but that's what it was in the comics. Anyway, but yeah, the trailer makes it look so great. Like, I mean, it's directed by Chloe Zhao, and we see the Celestials and stuff as well for the first time, like proper Celestials. And yeah, it looks bloody brilliant. Now I won't go into it too much. As I say, I have tweeted about it. New Rockstars have done a breakdown of it. It will be one of the films, one of the content that we kind of react to when it comes out. But yeah, I won't go too much into it until it came out. But we obviously have What If that we're dealing with just now. We've got Shang-Chi. I think that's how they said it. They said it in the trailer how to say it. Which coming out at the start of September. But yeah, we're gonna focus on those things for just now. But that is us for the second episode, proper of Delivery for Tony Stank. I've called it Season 1, so last week's episode was Season 1, Episode 1. This is Season 1, Episode 2. Again, I'm going to get sick of saying this, but you can follow me on Twitter at DeliveryMCU, where we can chat about the films, chat about the episodes, chat about anything Marvel. There's going to be a Spider-Man trailer soon, I believe, so that'll be the next big thing that we'll chat about. And yeah, that's kind of it from us. But guys, once again, thank you so much for your support over all the different places that you can watch and listen. So YouTube, obviously, if you're watching just now, like the Spotify that you may be listening on just now as well, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're also on Amazon Music as well. But again, on our Twitter, on our bio, you can get the link tree with all the links that you can hear us. You can download us on Spotify or whatever, if you want to listen to it at a different time. But yeah, again, thank you so much, guys, and we will see you in the next one. And yeah, enjoy.